Hello and welcome to the Lopsided Crafter Loom Knitting channel. My name is Erica and today we are going to talk about the Kitchener cast on the Flexi Loom. I've had a lot of questions on whether or not it can be done. And the answer is yes. Yes, it can be done. One of the great things about the Flexi Loom is that it is flexible, especially for when you are wanting to move stitches or removing the links for decreases or adding them for increases. One of the harder parts about the Flexi Loom when it comes to certain things is that it is flexible. So you have your give and take. One thing to remember that when you are doing the Kitchener cast on this loom, your stitches may look like this when you are doing the cast on, or they may look like this, or it may look like this. It's not going to matter, because once you start your toe and then you start working in the round, it opens back up. So my suggestion for the Kitchener cast on, if you do not like the flexibility of it or fighting the stitches when the pegs are really close together, find something that you can put in the middle of your loom to help you keep its shape. For me, a remote, a fire stick remote or something of that shape works perfectly. So then what I do from there is just kind of rotate it, because I want to get my beginning of round marker kind of over here in the middle. So if that's not right, then I'm going to just rotate it here a bit. I know that this marker over here is my half marker, but as long as this one is in the correct spot, I'm okay. Now this is still going to be fidgety, don't get me wrong, but it does give you a little bit more rigidness. The downside to using something like this is once that you have already cast it on, it kind of pulls the remote up, so you have to be very careful when you knit your stitches off. But I am going to show you how to do this. Another thing that I suggest when working this cast on with this type of loom, instead of doing the cast on and then going around 2 to 3 times before starting your toe, I suggest that you go around one time and start your toe right then. That way, the sooner you get back to your normal shape, the easier it's going to be. So I have a little bit of yarn here, and I've decided that I'm going to do 2 at a time. So I figured I would show you how I cast on using this out of the box method. So let me gather myself some yarn here, and got my slip knot because I wanted to try to get as close to matching these stripes as possible. So what I'm going to do is I am going to find my half loom marker over here, and I'm going to put that slip knot on that marker, and then I'm just going to tighten that down. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to pop this back out, and I'm going to move that yarn tail to the inside. That way I don't have to worry about doing it later. Alternatively, you can put your yarn on first and then put in your whatever you're using, your remote, a box, whatever works best for you. Then I kind of just hold that remote down and hold it with my hand. You don't want to do tight because, see, it'll slip right out. You're just kind of like holding it there. And then once you get your cast on started, it's a little bit easier. So just like for all Kitchener cast ons, we're going to go to the peg. Let me change hands here. easier to see here on the video. You're going to go to the peg to the next to it, wrap it around, go to that next peg, and wrap around. So see, you have a loop on each one of those pegs. And then we're going to go to the next peg and wrap, next peg and wrap, and so on and so forth. It does not matter if you are going diagonally like this, or if you are going straight across the loom. It does not matter as long as you pick up every peg and you end where your first stitch will be on your marked stitch. Just make sure you get every one. Wrap and wrap. So like I said, this having the remote in here does make it easier, but as I mentioned, because the remote slips up, you see you barely have any room once you start knitting. So you have to pick your evil. Sometimes you can push the remote down and it'll work, sometimes not. But if you take your time and go slow, you can do it. And if you can fight through just doing the toe, then it will automatically go back to your circular shape once you start working on the foot of the sock. Oh, there we go. We went around 2 pegs there. Just keep going and going and going. Now that we're back here to the other end, I might have to guide the yarn a little bit because it's always finicky. Whether, it doesn't matter what loom you're using when it comes to the end and the beginning. All right, and there we go. And our first stitch is our marked peg. So see, it's just that simple to do the Kitchener cast on this loom. Like I said, you just have to fight these little stitches over here on the side. So let's just go ahead and show you how I do this. Because you can't push your stitches down because you don't have any room because of that remote or whatever you're using. So I bring my yarn up, I pick the stitch up, bring it down in front of the peg, and flip it over. Now you still have to be careful because those stitches can and will pop off. So now that I've got that first one, you can kind of put your loom hook here on that next loop and kind of bring it out of the way and wrap it and knit off. Being careful when you bring it back to the other side so that it does not flip off. And you do it the same way all the way around. And then once I get back around here, I will start my toe. I'm going to continue to do this a few more stitches just to show you, especially when we get to the other side. So now they're getting really loose. Just be careful. Take your time when you bring that yarn forward so that you keep that stitch on the loom. Sometimes I'll go like this to kind of loosen it up a little bit. so that it's easier to grab. But you get the idea on how to do it. I'm going to work some off camera and then get over here on the other side and show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm here on the other side, and as you can see, there is like no room, right? So I kind of just do the same thing. I'll pick up that stitch there first and bring that yarn around and just flip it off. And then I kind of just hold the hook there and tighten it down. I have found that this usually only happens on one side when you're using something like a remote in the middle. Now again, you don't have to use a remote. You can just hold the loom. Um, some people find it easier to do it that way. I have done both. I'm one that I like to have my stitches kind of all the same length and the same tension. So I like to use this method. Um, but I have been known to use the other method, especially when I am um, in the car or on the road and don't have anything that I can grab. The plus side to doing it this way is that with this Flexi Loom is that you actually are you have less yarn right here that you have to some people call it wasting. I don't waste any of that yarn. I save it later for heels or toes or cuffs, or if I am making anything scrappy, I'll save it for that. So I never really consider it waste yarn myself. If I am using the same color for the heel, then I will actually close the toe before I do the heel, and I will start the yarn, this extra yarn with the heel. Especially if you're doing different colored, toes and heels, then you've got some extra yarn right there. So I personally never waste it. I know a lot of people do, and they feel it's wasteful, and that's why they do not like this cast on. But for me, I'm okay with it. I like toe up and I like cuff down. You just have to, you know, pick your evil. Do you want to fight doing the Kitchener cast on and closing the toe with all the thread, or do you want to do the Kitchener closing with the knitting needles? So, it's one or the other, really, unless you do a rounded toe where you do the drawstring closing. But we are almost here, and then I want to show you what I do and what it looks like. Almost here to this last peg. All right. Come on, baby. There we go. Okay, so from here, if I were using any other loom, I would go around the loom one more time before starting the toe. But with this one, I go directly into the toe. From here, I just kind of pop the remote out from the back. So now your loom has this kind of shape. When you are doing the toe, you are going to have to just kind of push these out of the way every once in a while to kind of keep the same tension. And it's going to get wonky. It's going to go like this, and it's going to go like that, and it may even do this number. But like I said, once you get your toe completely finished, it naturally goes back into this position. So if you have any questions or concerns or any other thoughts or ideas on how you've used this loom to cast on, please share with everybody. And until next time, stay cozy, happy loom knitting, and may all your socks find their matches. Bye.